Let's look at Oshinoko, and I mean the real Oshinoko as perceived by someone who is in the entertainment industry themselves. Oshinoko has been a massive success as made evident by its popularity. It has a gripping story, a great cast of characters, its animation and how it conveys the deep emotions of its characters, but where it has really shone for me is how it portrays how individuals deal with the entertainment industry. I am 414 Anime, a full-time YouTuber with 150,000 subscribers, and I'm fortunate enough to say that I have found some form of success in this field. Yes, I am still a small channel when compared to a lot of the others out there, but the fact that I've managed to turn my dream into a job makes me feel like I've made it. Now, the reason I mention this is because I want to take you through the first season of Oshinoko from the perspective of someone who lives this thing daily. Though I can promise you it's not as dramatic. Well, most days anyway. I want to run through aspects of the show and how I as a YouTuber relate to them and give you a rundown of how things have made me feel, how they work in real life, and just my own connection with some of the topics. I'll add that everything I share today is through my own personal experience as a YouTuber and that everyone else's journey is completely different, though the topics are highly relatable between us YouTubers as we have all experienced these things in one way or another. So let's start from the very beginning with Ai Hoshino and one of the core themes of Oshinoko that we learn very early on. That is, of course, the following. In the entertainment world, lying is your weapon. Lying is a core element of Oshinoko in many a different way, and though I have always strived to be as open and honest a guy as you can find on YouTube and social media, the reality is that every single one of us is lying in one shape or form. In fact, Oshinoko says it best themselves with the line, "Everyone lies, even if they don't want to." As YouTubers, we are simply a persona or an extension of ourselves. For some of us, it's a whole alias they present themselves as, and for others, it's a more exaggerated version of themselves. For me, it's the latter. My YouTube self is still me, but it's definitely different from the real me that my family and friends see IRL. Online, I try to be upbeat and someone that is always positive, even when I don't feel that way all the time. You have to be, else your viewers will pick up on something not being right and feel disconnected with the content. Like, would you rather watch someone who's energetic and full of life or someone who has a dull and lifeless tone? My aim has always been to entertain, inspire, and distract, and to do that, I have to put on this exaggerated side of myself who conveys a mood which hopefully triggers a happy reaction in my viewer. I'm not saying that I'm forcing myself to be like this and I'm doing something that doesn't make me feel happy myself, but I'm saying that us YouTubers have to be a little more animated in order to deliver a better performance. Plus, some days are a little harder than others for whatever reason, and yes, those are the days where you have to force it out a little bit more. It's all about how you present yourself to the online world. The line Oshinoko used that stood out to me here was, "Behind every smile, there's a calculated lie." It sounds a little malicious, but not in the way that I relate to it. We can never truly show our true selves online, and for a bunch of reasons we will discuss later. I relate to this line here in the sense that though we come across as always, happy and living the dream, that's not always the case. YouTube and social media is our job. Appearance for us is, unfortunately, everything, and we are judged by that, especially when it comes to the most important encounter of all, which is our first time appearances. They are literally make or break for us. We need to make a great first impression and show off those pearly whites of ours. That's to use a smile as armor against the negative criticism, or even for times when we have to do a part of our job that we really rather wouldn't that day. It's the infectious, yes can do attitude that people want to see in us. There is of course a line to all of this though, and we see it with Ai in that first episode. Reading online comments is a huge part of not only Oshinoko, but also our lives on YouTube and social media. I was reading a comment that said, "The way Ai smiles is neither good nor bad. It's one of those typical pro smiles. She's kind of fake." Ai asks herself, well, aren't you the ones asking for this? Aren't you the ones that want to see me smiling all the time? Which is true, no one wants to see an idol who's all doom and gloom, but people can't relate and want to follow you if it's too fake. Following this though, Ai delivers one of the cutest smiles of the series when she sees baby Aqua and Ruby with the glow sticks giving it all that, and the internet's reaction to this went through the roof. Ai sees this and thinks to herself, I see, this is what you like, and then continues to smile just like that. I liked this because it was relatable in finding what it is that works for you and capitalizing on it. Like, it's kind of sad that you're having to tend to the wants of others, but unfortunately, this is the way of the online world these days. If you aren't doing it, they'll go and find another who is. But it's also relatable in the sense of no matter how hard you try to please the internet, it's never enough. Even if you give them exactly what they want, they will find fault. It's just how it is. All in all, Ai's character was an extremely interesting one in this case. Through her lies, she truly mastered her work and private life balance, although her private life was pretty much private to her alone. I think her character presented one of the core struggles in this line of work perfectly, in which, yes, we have to split our work selves with our true selves, but at the same time, you want those online to remember that she is still a true self, if that makes sense. Like, she's a real life human being with her own feelings. I even said to herself, but idols are human too. Is it bad for me to seek happiness? I just feel sometimes in putting ourselves out there, people feel that they can use or talk to us freely however they choose. This doesn't only affect us, but it also affects our real life family and friends that have access to the internet and can see these things. Just look at how Ruby reacted to all these things people were saying about Ai, particularly the negativity from the news of her death. For me, I know like my fiance has read comments before and I've seen her react to them in different ways. I remember once I was getting hounded a lot by one person in a very uncomfortable way, saying all sorts of like sexual, inappropriate, and again, uncomfortable things. I know you can identify that there are weirdos online, but to read that still sparks real human emotion. Like, I can honestly say I wouldn't want to read those kind of things a creep felt that they could say to her. Ruby follows up with another interesting point here. She says, do you simply have to endure all the hate when you're famous? Is that the price of fame? I honestly don't think you do, but there are aspects I understand about that statement that I'll go over more when we talk about Akane, but I strongly believe that those around you who haven't decided to put themselves out there should have to, air quote, endure it. To be honest, I've been very lucky in my experience of being a YouTuber, something I'm sure you'll hear me say again and again in this video, and I haven't had to endure as much of this as others have, or maybe I have learnt to endure it. But still, it was an aspect that I found extremely relatable. Now, during Ai's arc, we met the director, who was not only an extreme badass, but he dropped some really big quotes that struck a chord with me. The first was how he was describing the entertainment industry to a young Aqua. He said, dreaming about the entertainment world is good, but it isn't for dreamers. This isn't about art, it's about business. This really stuck with me because of how true it is. I started YouTube as a dreamer. My only goal was to reach 100,000 subscribers and attain that silver play button. As you can see, we achieved that. Yay. So yeah, 100k, that was my sole intention, nothing more. I'll be honest in that I didn't even know you could make money off of YouTube until they tried sending me my first paycheck. But when I found out about this, I worked hard to make this my full-time job. Again, I achieved this. Yay. However, this is when YouTube became more about business for me rather than an art form. In a bad way and a good way in a sense. For example, there are tons of videos on different series, heck, there are different topics and channels I'd love to make. However, I know putting time and effort into these things aren't going to pay my bills, so I have to make the more business and tactical decisions to work on things I don't want to cover as much to make things work for me. Yes, I'm lucky that a lot of the time I'm covering what I really enjoy, but there are times I want to talk about a certain character or series I love, but I just know it won't do the views compared to what I know will work. It's all about those sacrifices and business decisions we make now, which in time will allow me to make these videos in the future that will yield the results I need to be able to not live on pot noodles for a week. I have to be like a lot more critical of myself and my work compared to the days where I was creating whatever made me happy at the time. Now, the other big drop from the director came when he was talking to Aqua about his acting career. Aqua has always held Ai on such a high pedestal, and in this situation, he was doing one of the biggest no-nos in this line of work, which is comparing his talents to Ai's. Aqua believes he will never have the same success as Ai because he was simply born without her natural talent, to which the director says, everyone has the right to chase their dreams. You can't win the lottery if you don't buy a ticket, so have faith in your own talents. You can never become I, and I can never become you. You shouldn't be scared because of a setback or two. You can only be down on yourself after you've used everything in your arsenal. Comparing yourselves to others is the biggest setback and the easiest path to failure, but it is one of the most natural things we humans tend to do. It's easy to feel down when we see others finding success in the same field, but it's really important to remember that everyone's path is different, and as the director said, you are not them and they are not you. Don't give up on yourself until you've used everything that you can do. Now, let's look at some of the smaller things I've picked up on in the series before we move on to the heavier topics of Akane and Kana. So we had a cool scene with Kana and Ruby where Kana is describing what ego surfing is. Ego surfing is basically searching for yourself in order to find nice comments about yourself online to make yourself feel better. Won't lie, I did feel a little called out by this, but I'm sure a lot of others did too. However, it just reminded me of the time I did do this, and though there isn't an awful lot about me out there, I did find a Reddit thread where I had posted a video about my obsessive Kurumi Tokusaki collection, and in this thread there are a bunch of people questioning my mental health and whatnot. I just feel that this is basically my look in life. I tried finding if people were talking about me online, and when I did, it was about my Kurumi collection and how unhealthy others find it. Though to be fair, there was a lot of praise and people backing me up there too, so it's not all bad. Plus, I also know how bad I am, so it's fine. Now, in that same scene, Ruby was drinking something and didn't like it, so she decided that she was going to get her money's worth out of the product and tweet about how bad it was. Kana stopped her because that runs the risk of the company finding that tweet, and you will effectively destroy your chance of ever getting work or a sponsorship from them. Now, the relatable portion is that I wanted to tweet about some figures I got in the past and how awful I thought they were, but I ended up deleting everything that I was typing because I didn't want to ruin the chance of hopefully working with that company in the future. Now, it's the same situation, of course, as in Oshinoko, but when that moment happened, I was like DiCaprio. You know that DiCaprio meme where he's pointing at the TV? That was me. Something super relatable for me as well was seeing Aqua edit videos in Final Cut Pro. As well as being a YouTuber myself, I'm also a video editor for other channels, and I think I'm the only editor in AniTube that uses Final Cut Pro to edit. So that was a big win for me, that one. Now, then there was the first episode we saw the legend Pion in, where they discuss how the best way to get subscribers on YouTube is, which I found interesting. We got from the scene that the answer can be uploading every day, or already being well known, but Pion says that the fastest way to get subscribers is by collaborating. Collabs with super famous YouTubers are super effective. Now, I think aspects of these are all correct in their own way, but are very situational and leans towards what I said earlier in that everyone's journey is different. Posting every day, yeah, I guess that's easily one of the best ways, but the videos need to be good and you need to have the time to do that. Being well known already, again, yeah, that's easily one of the easiest ways to get a load of subs, but you need to be well known already, and that's super hard in itself. Collabs with famous YouTubers, maybe. You do need the connections for that, which most do not have. Plus, I kind of feel like collabs aren't as big as they used to be unless you are super big channels already, which kind of goes back to that being really well known from earlier point. This is of course all from my own personal opinion, others may say otherwise. Collabs have always been like a hard hurdle for me anyway, and it comes down to how to interact with those around you. Like when Aqua and Kana skipped school to play catch, Aqua said something really interesting when Kana asked if he and the cast of Love Now were close. This ties in. He said, "We're not on bad terms, but we're not that close either. We're always lying and looking out for our own self-interests. There aren't many people around me whom I can have an idle conversation with without ulterior motives." At this, I totally got straight away. Like, I am far from approaching someone for ulterior motives, as honestly, I don't have the ego for that, and most of the time I feel like I'm a burden to others. I'm often like, I'll probably just get in the way if I say hi, or they'll just think that I'm after something if I reach out, so I tend not to. However, I have been approached or have worked in group environments where this was totally a thing. Like, my eyes were instantly drawn to like notions of things like, oh, I'll speak or work with this person if I can benefit from it. And I thought that was pretty sad, but I don't know, maybe that's just how you play the game. I don't know. Anyway, moving on to a fun one comes from the episode where the cast of Love Now post the video that mends Akane's reputation. So Memcho is talking about the tweet with the video, right? Mentioning, do you know what the best time of day and the day of the week to post to get the most retweets? The perfect tweet length to leave the biggest impression possible. And she mentions that she was a professional at making things go viral. Like, one, I felt called out on that because I've got like no idea about social media stuff. And two, because she was like, if this hits 100 retweets in the first hour, then it's gonna be a viral one. I'm like, lady, if I put out a tweet that goes over 20 likes, I feel like that's viral for me. Now, if you're familiar with me, or you may have seen already in this video, I tend to joke a lot about my shortcomings, which to no surprise is something I heavily relate to in Kana's character. Watching Kana was sometimes awkwardly like staring into a mirror at times, and how she doesn't have a lot of self-confidence in herself compared to others. She made quotes like, if I'm gonna be the center idol, we'll have no fans, and just look at me as filler. And I hate to say it, but like, honestly, I just feel that. It goes back to me saying that you shouldn't compare yourself to others, but when I used to do that, or if I slip into that habit a little bit in a lot of ways, Kana views herself the same as kind of how I view myself sometimes. I don't see myself as this big popular YouTube star that others view me as. Like, I acknowledge that I have had success and that I'm doing well, but I never look at myself as this big or famous person. And though I joke about it and whatnot, it is easy to crave that same success she once had. For me, 2019 was a massive year on YouTube wise. I saw a lot of growth, and I feel like at times I've always searched for that same growth, seeing anything less than that as a failure, which is the worst and wrong way to look at these things. Trust me. Now, Kana is a super hardworking girl who is desperate not to fail. She can't fail, and I can relate to that, and not just in terms of the success. Like I mentioned, for me and a lot of other YouTubers out there, this is our job. You know, we pay our taxes and our bills. If we fail, then money doesn't come in, which is where these added pressures come in. And like any part of the entertainment industry, it also affects our mental healths because of it. And that's a really scary thing about what's portrayed in Oshi and here in real life. How this stuff affects your mental health and how easy it does so. Like, your life is run by these numbers and how well you're doing. Modern culture revolves around the internet. Yes, it's the best place to build up your fan base and accessing analytics and information about yourself. It's very easy to do that, but it's just as bad as it is good. Like I said, from my experience, I'm really lucky when it comes to negative comments, but my Achilles heel, man, is the YouTube video ranking system. I don't know if you've heard about it, but it basically takes your last 10 videos and compares your recent video to them. A 1 out of 10 is where that video has performed best, and it goes through to 10 out of 10, meaning that that video has completely tanked. Like, a 1 out of 10 gives you a very happy version of me, whereas a 10 out of 10, it makes you feel the worst, man. Now, as YouTubers, and I guess humans in general now, you often find yourself drawn to what the online world thinks about you. And it's a common thing we see in Oshi, where we see the characters responding to what they're reading about themselves online. But just as Kana said when she was explaining ego surfing, never forget, when you gaze long enough into the abyss gazes into you. This is, of course, where we get into what happened with Akane. Akane was victim to one of the cruelest things the internet and the world of fame has to offer: online abuse. Watching this all unfold in Akane's arc was really hard to watch and a little close to home. Again, luckily, I haven't had it as bad as others, but I have had it and it really isn't nice. It's a really hard feeling to describe, being on the end of abuse such as this, or seeing others on the end of it for that matter. I honestly can't stand it, but I do understand that it's something that is unavoidable in this day and age. Now, one aspect of this arc and the take on this subject that I really did like was with Ruby and Kana having a conversation about it. And I don't know why, but Kana is just the best at explaining things. She's real, blunt, and her point is always bang on the mark. So when talking about the online abuse Akane was getting, Ruby asks, is that something you get used to? To which Kana replies, it differs from person to person. Those who can't get used to it never get used to it. It really depends on my mental state on the day. I think this is the perfect response to this. Like, I don't think we should have to get used to or endure online abuse, but it is something that we can learn to handle over time. Like, I remember my first dislike, that was a horrendous experience enough, but compared to then, I can handle much more. But like Kana says, it really depends on my mental state that day. Even the tamest of comments can dig in 10 times as much if you are just not in the mood that day. It can just be such a terrifying place online. Social media gives people the platform to hide behind a screen and just say things without thinking about the consequences. We also have the fact that people often find happiness at the misfortune of others, which is what we see with Akane in this arc. There's also nowhere to hide online. More of Kana's quotes I found relatable were when she was saying, "Everyone has their own flaws no matter how small. You'll always be able to find a reason to hate someone." To combat this, she goes on to say, hide behind a character. The more you reveal your real self, the more you can get hurt. That arc in particular was a huge one for the subject and Oshinoko, but the whole series has just been something I feel we have never seen before. Doing what I do as a YouTuber, I find myself glued to it every week as there is always something in an episode that I can truly relate to. I hope my own personal thoughts and feelings here were a great insight for you. Now, while you wait for the next video to drop, why not check out this video where I talk about the truth behind the starry eyes in Oshinoko. But that is it from me. I'll see you very soon for some more. Till then, you take care. Peace.